This is TWiT.
So some interesting news in the auto world. We're just talking about Google and all their deals and things like that they make and stuff, and B2B and providing services. And Ford Motor Company and Google announced that by 2023, Android Automotive will be Ford's infotainment system in all of its vehicles. This is huge if you're tracking the automotive world. Sync will use Google Maps, Android voice recognition, and enable third-party development. Also using Google Cloud for connected services. This does not mean that only Android devices can connect. And Android Automotive allows Android Auto and Apple CarPlay to interact. And some existing models might get an update to their systems too. So basically what this means is that the car's OS is going to be powered by Android Automotive, which is basically just an infotainment system that anybody can use that's being run by Android. If you plug in a iOS phone, CarPlay will work. If you plug in an Android phone, Android Auto will work. But if you don't have any phone, you don't plug anything in, you're using the car's system, you don't even know it's Android under the hood. So like that's an important distinction here. But this is huge, and it kind of ties into recently I got a car, which I haven't had for, what year is it? 21? The last time I had a car was 2007.
Wow.
And
did you have to learn how
to
to drive again?
No, because I had Zipcar. Remember, I used to drive to Petaluma when I was in. So I stay busy. Haha, Jason. But when buying the car, actually leased it. I leased the car. When looking for a car, when shopping for a car, and I talked about this on the show. I wanted to use Android Auto. I wanted to find a car that was compatible with Android Auto. I had some other non-tech needs, i.e., like space for car seats and babies and lugging groceries, and could my wife drive it and all this fun stuff. And eventually, basically, we settled on a Subaru Forester, which those of you who are aware, Subaru has its own infotainment system, the Subaru Starlink system. But if I plug a USB cable in and plug my phone in, it loads up Android Auto, and I can use that in the dash. So I've been doing that, having a good time. I actually had a great Duncan Jaffrey from Osdroid when I was shopping for the car, sent me a whole bunch of information on Twitter, and I actually never replied. I should do that tonight. But that information was great, and it really helped me kind of in understanding it. But I will say, like, using Android Auto like in a dedicated every time I get in the car. Now I'm starting to feel some of the pain that is around Android Auto, right? That flow that I've heard you speak about, right? The wired aspect of it alone, like now I get that little box that can make it wireless, which I totally understand there. But there's also little nuances in, just like for me, it's mainly been to listen to podcasts and to use Google Maps. And I will say I've been happy with the assistant and with voice responding to messages. Yeah. Like it natively picked up WhatsApp. It read me the message. It said, "Do you want to respond?" I said, "Yes." I responded, and it sent it. It was accurate. It all worked, and that's great. But I think my biggest complaint about it is how much it just locks out your phone when in the car. Because if I'm at a red light, it's actually faster for me to go to the Google Maps app and pull up where I'm going and get a sense of it than to do it on the dash and do all that stuff. It's actually more dangerous to try to type in an address on the head unit than it is to type it in on my phone.
They probably want you to use the voice, of course, so you can keep training that model. But I found that using the voice in the car, it's like when you turn down the music because you're looking for a parking spot. It's just that like cognitive ability, like you just want to take back as much as you can so that you can focus on driving.
Well, the most annoying thing to me about Google Maps or Android Auto is that I rarely, if ever, use the navigation mode. Right. And this is actually this is a pet peeve I've had with Google Maps, not just in Android Auto, but the Google Maps app, is that there should be a setting or a version or an aspect of Google Maps that you're telling it, I know this neighborhood. Right? Like this is where I live. I know these roads because, like, for example, I left my old apartment in Queens the other day and I was driving back and I was going to go stop at Shake Shack. So I had to find the nearest Shake Shack to get their new Korean fried chicken sandwich. And
as you do.
And so I was like, all right, well, let me use, Android Auto and Google Maps. I put in the address And there's an annoying on-ramp to get onto the Long Island Expressway from where I lived, where you have to like make a left and then bear right at the fork and then bear left at another fork and then stay like whatever. And Google Maps just told, and this is like in the span of maybe 200 feet, right? This is a short distance with a lot of like crisscross that me living there know exactly what to do. And I'm listening to the podcast and Google Maps would say, now bear left. Now, and like it was just inundating me with the directions. Yes. And I'm like, I live here. I know it. I just need to know what exit to get off of. Right. Like, so I immediately turned it off and I just used my phone to navigate. So, which I know isn't what you're supposed to do, but it actually worked against me. So, I don't know. So it's been a mixed bag. It's great for Pocket Casts. Let me tell you, I love listening to podcasts and the interface is awesome. And that's all good on that end. But what this means to bring it back to the story, I'm not familiar enough with Android Automotive if it's all the same applications in Android Auto. Right. And so if my experience with Android Auto will be similar for someone in a Ford. So I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I'm not as versed on Android Automotive either. My understanding of it being that it's a platform that kind of drives the infotainment system and possibly more inside of the car. Like, I'm not sure that necessarily implies that you're going to get the total Android Auto experience. Right. I'm assuming it's customizable per manufacturer to have it look a certain way and everything. It's just, it happens to be running on an Android base layer, as opposed to a different methodology. So, and maybe that inherently makes it more supportive of the Android platform to some degree. Although Google would probably, want to be careful about that so that there isn't some sort of antitrust, thing that could go along with that. But I've not had direct experience with Android Automotive to really understand, like, okay, so it's Android underneath, but do you as a user even know that at all? Like, does it just look like every other infotainment system? It just happens to be driven by Android Automotive.
Yeah, are they going to skin it with the Ford Sync branding? Because Ford has really put a lot into that. Are they going to use stuff they've developed? Yeah, I mean, it could literally just be like it's running, instead of running Linux, now it's running Android Automotive, like that sort of thing. So, and the fact that you can still use Android Auto with it is somewhat moot if you are a true Android kind of person. But it was funny because I was actually deciding between a Ford or a Subaru, and essentially it was the same. They both have their infotainment system and you both launch Android Auto as an app, like when you plug in your phone. So like in that regard, it was kind of same for me in terms of the choices. So.
Okay. So I'm looking, whether this is helpful, I'm looking at the Google source.android.com about Android Automotive and Android Auto. And they kind of, they specify on the page, the nomenclature can be confusing. Android Auto, it's a lot of words here, but basically Android Auto is the platform that's running on the user's phone that projects out to Android Auto, that user experience to a compatible in-vehicle infotainment system. Android Automotive is the operating system and platform running directly on the in-vehicle hardware. So, so it's kind of both essentially, which that leads me to believe that Android Auto and Android Automotive are meant to play very nice together, and that would make total sense.
I think Android
I'm not
Auto
sure what that looks like.
Is the app-facing part, and then Android Automotive is the in-car system, akin to like what QNS used to be like back in the day, and all those other under the hood OSs, so to speak.
Yes. So, anyways,
and I think
sorry.
So basically, the demo that they had showed us at Google I/O like a couple of years ago was you would get into a car and it would be like one of these fancy touchscreeny cars. Usually, the cars they were showing were like in the 100K levels. So not something immediately attainable, but the idea was nice, which was that the whole car would be running on the Android operating system. So everything from the HVAC to the door locks to the actual assistant that was, the chip was embedded inside the car to talk to you through the speakers kind of thing. Android Auto is just the consumer phone-facing version of it. But as we're talking about all this, I'm also thinking about the version of Android Auto that was supposed to be like the driving mode in Google Maps. so that the minute you plug in your phone, you would get this like one easy scroll through screen, which still has not come to fruition.
Yeah, one of those.
So this is starting to get a little like. This is starting to get a little dicey in terms of just because we were just talking about Stadia and what was happening with that, and now we're talking about all these different like auto silos.
Yeah.
I
just included a link in the doc underneath the Ford story to a Verge story covering this news, and they have a screenshot from I think CES where there were, or maybe it was Google I/O, I'm not really quite sure, but of like an Android Automotive happening inside of a car. And I'm not a car guy, so I can't even identify what car vehicle it is. But it has
that is a Mustang. That is a Mustang, my friend. Because you can see on the steering wheel the classic Ford Mustang horse. And that is, I mean, I know that this sort of interface, Tesla really kind of brought it to the forefront, but that is an intense screen. Well, know what this
looks chunky and clunky to me.
You know what this actually might be? Is that the Mustang,
the new Ford
truck?
Mustang, the new
Have you seen the
one?
Shelby? No, they recently it's funny because my dad's a car guy. He's actually he owns a Shelby, like a 66. But Ford recently rolled out the new version of the Mustang Shelby, and it's a pickup truck. And like everybody's flipping out over it because it's like also this horrible looking.
It's very spacious. I watched the reviews on it. It was very spacious. Supposedly a new kind of era for Mustang. But that
the
said,
Shelby F-150. Yeah, that's what it is.
I'm putting one more link. Find it, Burke, while Flo talks.
This isn't the first time that Ford is kind of trying to be the ones to carry the torch for whatever tech inside the car. I mean, remember they had the big thing with Microsoft Sync, little less than 10 years ago, I think, is when the program officially ended. But people are still driving cars with Microsoft Sync in their Ford Fusions. And that was sort of like the beginning stages of you can talk to your car to do things for you. So not the first time for Ford to try something on in the digital way.
Sure.
Okay, so Burke, last time. So, scroll down and keep scrolling until you start to see interface stuff. You'll see it probably about a third to halfway through the article. Yep. There you go. Right after this picture, you start to see some interface stuff. Sorry, audio listeners. But basically, this is The Verge's article on the Polestar car, which was one of the earlier ones that had Android Automotive running on the inside. So this might give you a sense. I'm not sure that the Ford interface is going to look quite like this exactly, but it definitely has more of like an Android googly approach to it, right? Like the notifications up in the top are very similar to what you find on a phone, along with the clock. And yeah, definitely has more of that like Android design paradigm to it. So yeah, I'll be really curious to see what Ford does with that.
You guys know how I feel about this. No touch screens in the car. Not like this. This is bad move for the auto industry. I know Tesla's been doing it, and I'm going to have Tesla drivers out there being like, what are you talking about? It's great. I love my iPad.
Progress.
But that is not the way that our brains are supposed to. It's not what our brains should be doing while we're operating a moving vehicle. I wholeheartedly feel that. I have interviewed experts who have said that it is dangerous to drive without tangible buttons in the car because your eyes are going to search for that interface instead of looking at the road. And it's just, until we have fully autonomous self-driving cars, there should not be touchscreens in the car. That is my stance. And I
do think it's really interesting because there's the argument to be made that it's progress and the technology can do it, so we should do it and that sort of thing. And but like from a UI standpoint, because we were car shopping, even subtle changes and advancements are not always welcome. So like we were looking at the Ford and we're looking at Subaru, and I'll tell you what it came down to. It literally came down to two things. That were mainly driven by my wife, which is one, the Subaru back doors open out 90 degrees. And And think about that. Like most cars open like maybe 60 at best or whatever, but like loading kids into a car seat, extra, you know, like it both blew us away. And we're like, oh my God, this is amazing.
For sure.
But then number 2 was the fact that the Ford's gear shift is a dial. They've switched from a stick to a little dial in the dash where you go drive, park, drive, whatever. And she was like, nope, I want a stick. Like, she's like, I need that tactile, like I'm putting it into drive. And I get there will be a whole generation that will be raised on no gear shift whatsoever. It'll just be a button. Like there's no reason why it needs to be that. But like those of us who've been driving for, geez, I've been driving for almost 30 years now. Like I still have muscle memory of going to the gear shift behind the steering wheel of my first station wagon that I had in the 90s, right? So it's like it's really, really interesting. I haven't been driving 30 years. I've been driving almost 30 years. Anyway, that's crazy.
I've been driving almost 20 years. I've been driving 17 years. Like, just think about that.
But driving is something that is so, it becomes so instinctual, and altering that instinct or fighting that muscle memory could lead to injury. And so like, you gotta, I mean, I don't know if I'm as anti it as you are, Flo, because I'm so pro technology, but like also acknowledging the fact that you could really crash pretty badly if you get distracted.
Well, just from the analogy that you were giving about how it's easier to just go into navigation mode on the phone, I think that's why for me, there's no fluidity there. And I don't have this in my car right now. I have Android Auto on the phone in my car, but now I just put the music on. I just put it in the little pop socket holder that I have in my air conditioning vent. Actually, I don't drive anywhere anyway. So, I mean, I really haven't driven in a year, but minimizing distractions.